Hello everyone, my name is Bryn Goldsmith and I serve as a career advisor within our Career Development Services office, where we support you with everything from career exploration to preparation. Today we're going to be focused more on the preparation side of your career journey, which is going to be focused on developing your resume and making sure that it's employer ready, and that you feel confident to apply for those internship and job opportunities. So let's get started. Today we're first going to be starting off with what is the purpose of a resume, how should you format your resume, and what should you be putting on your resume, as well as tailoring your document and the importance of that for every single job and internship opportunity that you apply for. And so let's start with this. What is the purpose of a resume? So we know that your resume is all about you. It should be a tailored one-page document that showcases your skills and experiences that are most recent and relevant for the job or internship opportunity that you're applying for. The cover letter, on the other hand, is more so focused on the storytelling piece of your experiences. And so it's really, the cover letter is more so focused on the future and the employer, whereas the resume is more so focused on you and your experiences from the past. And then once we develop those great documents, then those documents are what gets you into the interviewing space, and the interview is what gets you the job. And so the resume is really the foundation that builds your professional personal branding, and it gets you into that interviewing space. And so that's why the resume is really critical to make sure that you feel really confident with that moving forward. And so today in this presentation, I'm going to go through some must-haves with you to have on your resume. But first, go with me and travel to the Career Development Services website. And if you go on our website to the resume and cover letter development section on our website, you will find a different resume sample for every single major that you can download and work alongside me today. So must-have number one is your header. This is where all of your contact information is going to be housed. I like this to be centered and at the very top of your page. First off is going to be your name. I like your name to be the biggest and boldest thing on the resume. Typically, I like to see your name in a size 14 or 16 point font. Next, underneath your name is going to be city, state. The employer does not need to know your full address or even your zip code, so just keep it to city, state, where you're job searching. Make sure that this is updated. Those of you who are searching for internships in Fort Myers, but your hometown is still listed as where you're from originally, make sure to update that to Fort Myers, Florida, so the employer knows where you're applying for. Next is your phone number. I want to highlight here the importance of adding a professional voicemail, a personalized voicemail box message to your phone number. This will ensure that when the employer calls you and you're in class and you can't answer the phone, that your voicemail showcases your professional personal brand as well. Make sure also that you're checking your voicemail box regularly and that you call them back in a very timely manner. Your email address, make sure that that's professional. For my first year students and sophomores, it's okay to still use your Eagle email. For my juniors and seniors, I would start to consider building a separate professional email address that you only use for your professional correspondence. And again, make sure that you're checking that regularly and responding to employers professionally and in a very timely manner. Another option that you can include in your contact information is your LinkedIn URL. Make sure that if you decide to add your LinkedIn URL to your header on your resume, make sure that it's employer ready. This is also something that Career Services can support you with. And so before adding your LinkedIn to your resume, do a check with us at Career Services and make sure that it's ready to go before putting it on there. There's also a way for you to customize your LinkedIn URL to make it shorter than what it is originally, and we can also support you with that. Must-have number two on your resume is education. I want your education section to be at the very top of your resume. The reason for that is because your education is the most recent and relevant experience that employers are going to want to see when they're reviewing your application. So within your education section, a couple things that I want you to remember. I want you to have your entire degree name and our university name to be completely written out without any abbreviations. So have Florida Gulf Coast University at the top. Usually I like to see that in bold, with Fort Myers, Florida, right aligned on that same line. Right underneath FGCU, you can have your entire degree name written out. Again, I don't want to see any abbreviations here. So write out Bachelor of Science in Supply Chain Management, Bachelor of Arts in Communication. Whatever your degree is, make sure you write out your entire degree name. And then right aligned, right underneath Fort Myers, Florida, have expected month and year of when you're expecting to graduate. If you're an alumni, go ahead and just shave off the word expected and just put the month and year that you obtained your degree. Underneath your degree name, we have some options for you within the bullet points within your education section. If you're confident with your GPA, usually I like to say a good rule of thumb is if you have a 3.5 or above, great to put on there as a bullet point within your education section. So you can put GPA 3.5, semicolon, Dean's List or President's List, whatever that looks like for you. If you don't have a 3.5 or above, I don't want you to stress that. Typically, employers don't need to know that information. And so we can just cut the GPA altogether if that's not your story. Another option for a bullet point that you can add is a bullet point dedicated to relevant coursework. Your relevant coursework that you list should exceed no longer than 2 lines within your resume, and it should be specifically tailored for the courses that you've taken that are the most recent and relevant for the job that you're applying for. If you're in the Honors College, you can put Honors College in the same line as Florida Gulf Coast University. So I would do Florida Gulf Coast University, comma, Honors College. Now this brings us to the conversation of transferable skills. So if you've heard that term before, chances are you know that transferable skills are those incredibly valuable skills that are transferable between all industries that would be useful in any job or internship that you decide to pursue. And so you gain these transferable skills through completing class projects, your work experience, different internships, clubs and volunteering, and even some side projects that you decide to do on your own. And so the top transferable skills employers are looking for are skills like communication, teamwork, critical thinking are those top 3 skills. And so the way that we need to highlight those on your resume is not by simply listing those in a skills section, because that really doesn't tell your professional story. Instead, what we're going to do is integrate those into your accomplishment statements. And when I refer to an accomplishment statement, I'm referring to those bullet points on your resume that describe each of your different positions and your achievements or the value adds that you were able to add within those positions on your resume. And so we've created a formula for you to remember how to write those accomplishment statements. And so starting with an action verb. An action verb is really important because that can tell the employer a lot about which of those transferable skills you want to highlight from that experience. And so verbs like develop, manage, create, lead, verbs like that, and there are hundreds of them to choose from, also on our website if you want to explore those, can really tell a lot about the skill that you want to start your statement off really strong with. Then the second part of that accomplishment statement formula is the project or the task you completed within the role. And so if we look at this top example, this person developed a training manual. If we stopped the statement there, would that be a super strong statement? Absolutely not, because it doesn't communicate to the employer the value add or the result of you completing that task or that project. And so we're going to add the third part of the accomplishment statement, which is the result or the reason why you completed that task. Again, think about how it benefited the employer. So developed a training manual for new workers to increase operational efficiency for the department. Let's look at the second example. Manage social media platforms resulting in a 20% increase in web page traffic and over 300 new followers. What's different in that statement than the first one? Numbers, actual quantities. The employer's eyes are going to be drawn directly to those numbers. Anywhere where you can integrate a number, again, that you can speak to with confidence in the interview will strengthen your statements when you can add those. So think about how to integrate those quantities and specific results that will communicate value add to your future employer. So this is a great example of how you could communicate an internship experience on your resume. Now, we have these different phrases on here highlighted because one thing that's critical to remember when you're developing your resume is the importance of tailoring your documents for every single opportunity that you apply for. And I know what you're thinking. That sounds like a lot of work. And it is, I'm not going to lie to you, but it's worth the intention. And once you have a solid resume format built where you remember all of your experiences and you have some good foundations of your accomplishment statements and what you want to communicate, it becomes so much easier to tailor your resume, integrating some of those keywords and phrases from that job posting that you want to apply for to really make it clear to your future employer who's reviewing this application that you have the skills and experiences that they're looking for in a candidate. And so as you can see here, we integrated some really strong action verbs and some phrases that we took pretty directly from the job posting to make sure that it's clearly communicated to the employer what this value add is going to look like for them. Now, within each of your sections, you can have multiple experiences if you choose. The thing to remember on your resume is there is a reverse chronological rule, which basically means that within each of your sections, all of your experiences have to be ordered from most recent or currently working in, all the way down to least recent. And so a way around that, let's say you completed a great internship at Scotland 2 semesters ago, but you've been working as a server more recently. The server experience is incredibly valuable, but for the internship that you're applying for in supply chain, you want to highlight that internship experience farther up than your serving experience because it's more relevant, right? And so what this student did was they created a specific section dedicated to internship experiences that they're going to order sooner or closer to the top of the resume and have maybe an additional work experience section that highlights some of those other work experiences, again, that are still incredibly valuable, but just less relevant specifically for that internship that they're applying for. Now, let's take a brief pause and talk about how to use AI in an efficient and as ethical way as possible for your resume. Now, as we see the increase of AI use, it's really important that you are being authentic with your experiences. And even if you use AI as a tool to help generate some ideas for what you should include on your resume, make sure that you never copy and paste from generative AI right onto your resume. And make sure, this is crucial, that you can speak to every single thing that you write on your resume. Because when you get into that interview space and the employer is questioning you about these numbers or these buzzwords that you're including on your resume, you need to be able to speak to those outcomes with confidence. And so that's why it's really important to balance your own innovation or balance your innovation and your experiences with authenticity. So making sure that your experiences are communicated in your own words rather than simply relying on generative AI to do that. And so we talked about this, but again, just remember the order in reverse chronological order within each of your sections. Now we can really have some fun and get creative with additional resume sections that you may want to include. So a great resume section to include could be related skills. Now within your skills section, I never want you to list those transferable skills. Never do I want to see teamwork, critical thinking, communication listed as bullet points in a skills section. We talked about this at the beginning, but a reminder, that communicates nothing to the employer. That's why we're so intentional with how we communicate that and build in those transferable skills into your accomplishment statements. So instead, in your skills section, I want you to write hard skills or technical skills that are specific to the job. So think about proficiencies in different software, proficiency in Microsoft Office, Word, Excel, PowerPoint. If you're learning another language or you're fluent in another language, you can list that language that you're learning or you're fluent in, but just be honest with what that proficiency level is. You can also add different sections if you're involved with different types of experiences. So if you're a leader on campus, I would highly encourage you to add a leadership experience section. If you're involved with Greek life, or you hold a specific position within an RSO here on campus, I want you to add that in a specific section designated to leadership. Another great option is if you've been working on some great service learning experiences, I would highly recommend that you add a campus and community involvement section where you highlight any of those service learning experiences or any additional club memberships that you're a member of or you're a part of and you're regularly attending meetings. Another great option is adding academic projects. Typically, if you add an academic project section, I would want to see this section right underneath your education section because I feel that it just flows really nicely going from education to projects. A project section is a great option because this is a way for you to highlight some of those great class projects that you're doing that are typically really related to the internship or job that you're applying for. And so again, think about going back to the job posting and tailoring what you say in your accomplishment statements or your project outcomes for your academic projects to again make it really clear for the employer, how is this going to translate over for this opportunity, or how is this going to benefit their team? Of course, we talked about adding internship experiences, additional work experience, if you've achieved any awards or scholarships, certifications, or if you've done research. All of those are great options to add specific sections on your resume as well. Now let's talk about the format. So as you can see here on the left is a common resume template that you may see online, maybe Canva, Microsoft Word, some of those different platforms, versus the one on the right, which is a resume sample that the CDS office created specifically for you. I would always recommend that you go with our resume sample, and this is for a couple reasons. Even though the one on the left might seem a little more eye-catching, I would always recommend you go with a Word document version taken from our sample formatting, because companies will use something called applicant tracking systems. About 95% of companies now use these software systems that read resumes before a recruiter even puts eyes on your application. These systems do not typically read resume templates correctly. And so we created our resume sample in combination of ensuring that you'll get through those applicant tracking systems, as well as we asked our employer partners, what do you want to see in a resume format? What is easy for you to review, and really what do you want to see from these candidates? And in combination with both of those two things, that's how we created this resume sample. Now, a couple things looking at the one on the left additionally. You'll see a lot of color, and you also see Olivia's picture on there. I would never recommend that you put a picture or use any bright colors on there. Again, for a couple reasons, we don't want to give the employer any reason to discriminate against you or form an opinion of you before you get a chance to speak to them in person or in that virtual interview. And also with the colors and the different fonts and some of those icons and graphics, they are not going to be seen correctly by those applicant tracking systems. And so we want to just be sure that your resume formatting is staying consistent and readable and accessible across all platforms that employers are using. Some additional tips. We already talked about this, the importance of tailoring your resume and your cover letter for the job. Use readable, consistent fonts. I usually like a Times New Roman or one of those other classic universal fonts, between an 11 and a 12-point font. Now, there's really no one-size-fits-all for resumes. Your resume is going to look different than other students that I've seen today. But the main thing is that if you use our resume sample, you'll get a really good basis and foundation for what your resume should look like. I wouldn't go below an 11-point font, and so if you're worried about squeezing all of that information into one page, chances are there may be some formatting magic that the CDS office can help you format to help keep you at that one page, but also make sure that your resume is staying consistent and readable for all audiences. I also typically wouldn't go above a 12-point font for the majority of your content. Again, there are some things that we can work out with formatting. So maybe if you're like, you only have a couple experiences so far, that's okay, we'll keep building. But maybe we adjust your margins to a 1-inch margin to kind of elongate the page a little bit. Versus if more so you're a senior about to graduate, your resume is going to be a little bit more filled with content. And so maybe we bring you down to a narrow margin with an 11-point font to kind of work out some of those formatting adjustments. Typically, for most industries, I'm going to recommend that you keep your resume to one page. Usually, the majority of employers are going to say that they spend about 10 seconds looking at a resume, and that's if an employer actually puts eyes on your resume versus the applicant tracking system, right? And so we want to make sure that it is as concise, as attention to detail oriented and precise and tailored to the specific job as possible, because we know that those employers are going through those resumes really quickly. Avoid personal pronouns. And what I mean by this is never on your resume do I want to see any I, me, my. Like we talked about, all of your accomplishment statements should start strong with an action verb, and never should I see the word I. When your resume is complete, please save your resume as a PDF with your name and the updated month and year as the title. So Bryn Goldsmith resume, June 2026. This will ensure that your resume is staying consistent and readable across all platforms, and that the employer knows that you took the time and intention to tailor your resume specific for that position. Another element for your resume, do not include references. Your resume is all about you. Your references are going to be submitted on a different page, and we also have a sample format for that on our website as well. You don't even need that little statement at the bottom that you'll see sometimes that says references available upon request. We don't even need that. The employer knows that by you applying for the job. They know that it's inherent that you're going to be able to supply them with references. So if you're looking at your dream jobs and you're looking at tailoring your resume for the jobs, and you're looking and you're seeing that there's a skills gap there, you have free access to LinkedIn Learning through your Eagle email access. And so I would highly recommend that you go and explore the thousands of different LinkedIn Learning platforms that are on here to try and bridge that skills gap. So if you're looking at your dream jobs and they're all asking for proficiency with Excel or Power BI, take a look at LinkedIn Learning and try and bridge that skills gap. Great. So once again, thank you for watching this video. Please remember that the Career Development Services Office is here to support you with anything your career or future related, whether that's exploring what you want to do with your major, exploring what jobs and internships you want to apply for, and then making sure that you're successful in landing that opportunity. So please feel free to come and visit us, reach out to us, or make an appointment right through our website.